is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Excuse me, I had a very early morning.
Now you'll have to forgive me. It's very early in the morning.
Forgive me, Nick. I'll get you the full details.
You must apologise to you.
Yeah, so...
Well, we have worked on these things.
I'm afraid I can't give you a date on that.
It's... you'll forgive me.
I don't know the details of that, I'm afraid.
All right.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Hello, I'm Nick Ferrari, and we're looking back at every time a minister couldn't answer a question on my show this year. The level of unpreparedness by ministers is extraordinary. I think it comes down to a couple of things. Firstly, they're so intent on getting their point across, whatever it might be about a bridge or whatever else, they don't actually think of the questions around it. And otherwise, they're just not up to it. They're not trained journalists. They don't know the who, what, where, when, why, how, and that's why it shines through every time. So many times people ask about the prep for those interviews, and there's not one direct answer. Sometimes it's very much we've worked out the script and we stick with it. More often than not, though, when we sense they don't know a certain area, then we'll just rip that all up, or mentally I rip it up, and we start to move on to areas. So more often than not, we're informed by what we hear first. Sometimes when I meet these ministers at Westminster, they laugh and they say, well, what would you do? And I would say I would remember what my mum told me. Honesty is the best option. You know what, Nick? I haven't got that figure to hand, but you'll have it within 5 minutes. Would make more sense. Any minister who doesn't want what they call the Nick Ferrari treatment, whatever that might be, I say again, who, what, where, when, why, how. You'll answer every question. You'll frustrate the living hell out of me, but you'll be able to answer every question.
And obviously the congestion around the Dartmouth Tunnel is a real problem for getting lorries moving between the north and the Midlands and the ports in the south-east.
Dartford Tunnel, I think.
Sorry, I meant Dartford. Excuse me. Dartford Tunnel.
It's Dartmouth. That would be one hell of a crossing, that one.
It's because I'm obsessed with that part of the world. I meant Dartford. Excuse me. I had a very early morning.
I know the feeling.
Dartford Tunnel. Yes, I'm sure you did too.
Just remind listeners where the new crossing is, where it takes off and where it lands.
It's... you'll forgive me. I can't recall the exact landing zones.
So the crossing that you're talking about, you don't know where it is?
Well, it's the Lower Thames crossing,
yes,
which has been in planning for many, many years.
It's almost as if you were reading from a piece of paper there, isn't it? You don't actually know where it takes off from or where it lands, do you?
You'll forgive me, Nick, but this is part of a broader 10-year infrastructure strategy that we will be launching later this week. And it is vital that we ensure that we improve our infrastructure, which is absolutely central to economic growth across the country and delivering better jobs and better wages for people.
I don't want to go on about this, but it is about the 19th word in the press release, the Lower Thames crossing. Let me tell you, Gravesend in Kent, Tilbury in Essex, those are the two towns.
Tilbury, it was Tilbury that I couldn't,
How much is it going to cost?
Well, it's going to cost quite a lot of money, but we today are announcing £590 million towards that cost. We'd already put some money in the autumn budget into this project, but we want this to be a public-private partnership because there are significant benefits, obviously, to the private sector.
But how much is the crossing going to cost, Secretary?
Well, overall, it's going to cost several £billion.
How many? You don't know that either, do you, actually?
Well, it has already cost quite a lot of money.
I don't wish to be rude to you personally. Is there much point continuing this conversation? Because you don't know where a bridge starts, you don't know where it ends, and you don't know how much it costs. So is there any point continuing?
As I've said, the money that we are putting in is crucial to unlocking this project, which has been years in planning. But you don't know how much
it is, Secretary. You don't know how much it is.
Well, it's several billion, as I've said.
It's 10 billion, to put you out of your misery.
10 billion.
Yeah, so it's not several, it's 10. What does this say about the economic stewardship of this country, that someone in your position of importance, you don't know where a bridge starts, you don't know where it ends, and you don't know how much it costs? What does that say to you?
Well, I'm here to talk about the broader infrastructure plan as well that we will be launching later this week.
Well, for the benefit of my listeners, I will continue. When will the Hammersmith Bridge problem be resolved?
I'm not here to talk about the Hammersmith Bridge. I'm not a transport minister.
But you're talking about infrastructure. You're talking. Sorry, I thought we just talked about 3,000 bridges that are unable to support the heaviest vehicles.
I don't have the detail of the Hammersmith Bridge.
But that's one of the key bridges that can't support any vehicles, let alone the heaviest of vehicles. So clearly that must figure in this.
The plan, the money that we are allocating today will go to such bridges, to go to repair bridges, and to make sure that those bridges can take a load. And as you said at the top, there are 3,000 bridges across the country that can't take a load.
Right. And one key one is the Hammersmith Bridge. So that's not part of this at all.
There will be Hammersmith Bridge and others will be, but that will be down to local. I mean, look, I can't come on your programme and give you the dates for every 3,000 bridge that will be.
I'm merely asking that one of particularly. It's been closed, I think, for around 6 years. We hear of a new initiative by the newish government, 3,000 bridges. One of the ones that really jumps off the page, of course, is Hammersmith Bridge. And you don't know whether any of these funds are going towards Hammersmith. Is that correct?
I can't name every one of the 3,000 bridges.
Respectfully, I've not asked for that, have I, Secretary? I've just asked, can you confirm that it is going to get some of the funds from this £1 billion?
Well, further detail will be set out in written statements to Parliament.
Well, let's move on to a couple of other matters. Do you have an idea roughly how many veterans sleep rough on our streets each night as we approach Christmas, Minister?
So those numbers are really hard to know. And, of course, one veteran on the streets is one veteran too many. We have, obviously, the number of referrals. But what sort of number do
you think we might be talking of here?
So I think across the rough sleeping population, veterans certainly don't make up any more than we would expect to see. And I want to get that number down to zero. And that's why.
But what do you think the number is, Minister?
So we know with Op Fortitude that we see referrals in the tens every week, and we know that we've helped over 1,000 people access housing through Op Fortitude. And then we also know that those that are at risk of homelessness is a bigger number, and of course those stats are just very difficult to track. But actually I really want to take this back to Valor, because one of the really key things that Valor will do...
I don't think you know the figure, because I have asked you 3 times, and I would have thought if you want to talk about the importance of Operation Fortitude, it might have been an idea to look at the number, mightn't it, Minister?
No, so I think it's important to recognise that people who are sleeping on the streets, so the way we can collect that data, so it's really important to understand how we can collect the data.
It's 3,700, believed to be.
And, so as we know, that is far too many people that are sleeping on the streets that are veterans.
That's the size of the challenge you and your colleagues are facing. So what are the 7 areas then, geographical areas?
So the West Midlands, and can I just do a shout out really to the Chief Constable in the West Midlands, Craig Guilford, because he's been leading from the top. Greater Manchester, now they've not seen such a dramatic fall, and we're wanting to work more with them. We've got the Metropolitan Police, obviously, because there is a lot of knife crime in London. We've also got Avon and Somerset in our list. How many have I got up to there?
You've got 4, so 4. I'm sure you know them off the top of your head.
I do, yes. The West Midlands, Greater Manchester, Avon and Somerset, the Met.
Now you'll have to forgive me. It's very early in the morning, but I do know them. I'm just going to...
I think I can hear paper rustling, Minister.
Yes, because I've got it in front of me with the actual reductions.
You don't think that perhaps you should know this, Minister?
No, I do know. Sorry, it's just very early in the morning.
Right,
sorry.
Yes, I've been aware of that for 22 years.
Right, West Midlands. Oh, British Transport Police. We mustn't forget them, because they've also had a
I think you need to go to Yorkshire as the other area, isn't it?
And West Yorkshire, of course, How could I miss West Yorkshire?
One more. Stay in Yorkshire.
Well, it's not Humberside and it's not North Yorkshire, so
where else
it must be South Yorkshire.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you think perhaps you might have known that, Minister?
I'm sorry. There's a lot going on in my head.
If my research is correct, you're one too. We're both dads. What currently is the provision for fathers as paternity leave? What do they get?
Statutory, a couple of weeks. They get 2 weeks. I mean, obviously, some workplaces contractually will have additional support to that. But we have a system which is not hugely generous compared to other countries.
What do you get if it's not generous? How much do you get a week?
Oh, if you get the statutory, Nick, my eldest and my youngest is 10, so I'm not actually sure what the statutory is anymore.
Do you not feel you should know what the statutory paternity leave is in this country? If this is a very important piece of work, as you said right at the top, Mr. Reynolds, shouldn't you know what it is?
I should, to be honest, Nick, but you must apologise to you rather than try and...
Don't worry about me. Apologise to the listeners. I don't worry.
It is quite a while since my youngest was born.
But you are launching this initiative today, aren't you? You're talking about how you want to look at the possibility of extended parental leave, and you don't have a clue as to what we're currently paying.
Well, I know that it's in the main what people are focused on, Nick, is the amount of time that people get.
It's £187, 18 pence a week. 187.
You know, when I come on your show, I never try and try and con you if you catch me out. So we'll accept that one.
Have you got an update on Operation Pianora?
I haven't that I can give you, but I'll try and get you one that you can use later on your show, Nick.
You know what it is, don't you?
Not on the full details, so I don't want to suggest something that I don't have the information for, but I'll get you those details.
Hang on a second. What do you think it might be, Minister?
I'm not going to guess, Nick, because I don't think that's the right way to treat you or your listeners with respect.
This could be the biggest scandal ever to hit the British Army. This is the Wiltshire Police investigation into alleged offences between 1970 and 2016, the biggest ever military sex abuse scandal, and you don't know what it is.
Forgive me, Nick. I'll get you the full details on that, so you can use them later on your show.
Okay.
But I would on these things, I prefer to give a full answer rather than a partial one.
You didn't know what it was, did you?
Even for more serious crimes like arson or ABH, which command prison sentences of up to 4 years, the government are going to say that you can be released with having served only a third of your sentence. This is a slap in the face. It's giving criminals a get-out-of-jail-free card.
What did the Conservatives achieve in this area after 14 years in power, Mr. Jenrick?
Well, government is tough. You have to take difficult decisions, and we strained every sinew to keep prisoners locked up. We deployed 1,000 rapid deployment cells. These are emergency prison cells. We signed prisoner transfer agreements with foreign countries like Albania. We did everything that we could to prevent this sort of situation. Well, it feels like Labour is reaching for the easy lever of releasing prisoners early rather than putting in the hard yards.
Is it true that the number of additional prison places provided during the Conservatives' years in power was 482?
We should have built more prison places, absolutely.
You built 482 additional prison places over 14 years, and you're lecturing this government, Mr. Jenrick. How do you think my listeners will react to that?
Well, because what needs to happen here is we need to have a proper plan that actually protects the public.
Well, what happened for 14 years?
Well, let me explain. What the government's saying is that they need to find 9,500 additional prison places in the years ahead. And they're going to do that by letting prisoners out early. What can happen instead is that we get the 10,800 foreign national offenders out of our prisons and deported from our country. Or we could tackle the 17,800 people who are in prison awaiting trial, but who aren't being put through the system quickly enough.
Why didn't the Tories do that?
Well, we have worked on these things, but that's a lot of people. A third of the people in our prisons are either foreign national offenders or they are on remand awaiting trial. And so the government should be focusing on those things rather than, for ideological reasons, letting people out onto the streets early, which are going to put the public in danger, and I think spark a crime wave, because there's no sense of deterrence if instead of going to prison, you merely get a tag. And the Justice Secretary's latest big idea is called prison outside of prison. I don't even know what that means. That sounds ludicrous. The idea that a tag or not being allowed to go to a football match is somehow a punishment for a criminal.
Finally, Minister, would you support conceding ground on the two-child benefit cap?
So I'm working really hard, along with many other ministers across departments, to really develop our child poverty task force strategy. I think there's a whole raft of measures that we need to look at, from cost of living, cost of energy, cost of water.
No, but would you keep the two-child benefit cap? Was my question.
Going to school.
Yes.
Sorry.
Would you keep the cap? Is my question.
So, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on decisions.
No, but which way do you feel? I'm not a decision. Your personal motivation. Which way do you feel about it? Would you support it?
So I'm absolutely determined to tackle child poverty and genuinely...
the two-child benefit gap.
Genuinely, I've always said that I think it's really important that we look in the round at what is driving child poverty, what is putting children in poverty, what is holding families back. Oh, well, we'll look at that. We'll look at that in terms of...
You don't know?
As part of... Haven't made a decision. We're coming up with a strategy as to how we drive down child poverty.
Home Secretary, can you tell me the numbers will decline this time next year?
Well, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to get those boat numbers coming down. We need to, and no one should be making those boat crossings. So that is, of course,
that is what we need to do, Home Secretary, but will we do it? Will the numbers be declining this time next year?
It is, of course, what we are aiming to do. If I set out some of the things that we are working to do at the moment, it means strengthening the law enforcement, and we need the law to change in Germany so that we can clear out the warehouses that are being held in Germany. We need the stronger law enforcement.
I think they make the boats in Turkey, don't they? And they make the engines in Germany. So for the third time, can you, when we talk this time next year to celebrate your 2 years in office, will you be able to say, look, the numbers have come down for the third time of asking?
That is exactly what I want to be able to come into the studio and say that to you. But as you know, Nick, we will do absolutely everything we can to go after the gang networks, but also to develop new arrangements around returns, for example, as well.
But to my listeners,
we're also working to do.
To my listeners who've heard Mr. McFadden be asked 4 times and he can't say, the Home Secretary asked 3 times, why should they have confidence?
Well, what I can set out is the things that we're doing.
It's the 1 in, 1 out. It's 50, and we know that on a typical week, around 840 will make the crossing, but 50 is a start. Home Secretary, how will those 50 be selected?
So we're not actually fixing the ultimate numbers either in the first phase of the pilot or in subsequent phases of the pilot.
So it could be fewer than 50.
And so we need to get this started and we need to build this over time. What we'll do in terms of the returns and who it is that's returned and the priorities, those will be operational decisions in the way that immigration enforcement always makes operational decisions, but we want that to work effectively. In terms of people applying to come to the UK, we've said that priority will be given to people who have a connection to the UK or people who are most likely to be genuine refugees or been targeted by the smuggling gangs as well. But this is a pilot and we will develop it over time, but that principle, that fundamental change is really important.
So it could be fewer than 50 if the number's not fixed?
Well, we will start this and we will grow this. That's the approach that we will take, and that's why we've not fixed numbers.
Right. So, lastly, Home Secretary, it could be fewer than 50, the answer which is yes.
So, Nick, what you're trying to do is to get me to sort of to play in and to speculate about different numbers.
You were the one who said the number's not fixed.
Yeah, it's not fixed. Exactly. That's
so it could be fewer than 50.
So I'm not going to speculate about the numbers that we'll get to. And, you know, part of the reason that I'm not going to speculate about the numbers is partly because we will develop this over time and it is a pilot, and also partly because there are ways in which we don't want the smuggler gangs to find different ways round this. And they will respond to whatever information we put out. We do want to see returns taking place in a matter of weeks, but we will need to work those processes through.
So they will be taking place in August?
So, again, we need to work those processes through, but we want to see the returns themselves take place as swiftly as possible.
You can't say August.
Bear in mind, people will be detained until they are returned, so
but you're
they will
unable
remain
to say
in
August,
detention. Well, as I said, we want this to be in a matter of weeks. Some of those cases we hope will be able to take place very quickly. In other cases, we are ready to resist legal challenges, which we've seen take place before. These are new processes. Of course, they've got to be rolled out. But I think there's
will it happen in September, Home Secretary?
That's our expectation,
No, but can you pledge that it will happen in September?
That is our expectation,
So you can't guarantee it will happen in September?
We know that we will work through different legal challenges and we will do so as speedily as possible. Why weren't you advised of this by your lawyers? It makes it sound like you've suddenly realised these problems. You must have been aware of these. Well, no, quite the opposite, actually.
What, the lawyers didn't advise you?
No, quite the opposite, as in we've always been clear that it would take time to roll out the first phase of this. And the plan is to have a pilot
I seem to recall you saying
in
August that it would be within weeks.
We want this to be in a matter of weeks.
Now in September it would be within weeks. I wonder if we'll be saying the same in October.
It's 4 weeks since we signed the treaty. And if you remember the Rwanda agreement that the previous government had, they ran it for 2 years and sent no one. So we're working actually at quite rapid pace to get people into detention and to get those return cases referred.
When these hotels are closed, then, where will the people go?
So I think it's a mix of things. First of all, you actually have to shrink the whole asylum system. So we actually need to have fewer people in the asylum system in the first place, fewer people needing accommodation. That has to be at the core of this. It's been allowed to expand in a way that is out of control. And then, yes, we do also want to see alternative sites, more appropriate sites, including looking at military and industrial sites as well. But the core of it has to be clearing the numbers out of the system and preventing as many people getting into the system in the first place.
Home Secretary, what's an industrial site? What does that mean?
We will provide more updates on this, but the point is we're looking at a range of different locations, working with local councils.
Is it a disused carpet warehouse or something? What is an industrial site?
Well, we're looking with other government departments and looking with the local councils at what some more appropriate sites might be, and certainly more appropriate than asylum hotels. We have managed to cut the bill for these costly asylum hotels by nearly £1 billion this year.
But is it a warehouse? Is an industrial site a warehouse?
There are a range of different things that we're looking at.
Well, can you give me an example, then, Secretary?
Not yet. And I will do so as we've got more progress on this, because
so you're looking at something. You and your colleagues are looking at something, and you've no idea of the example of what it might be. Let's look at industrial sites, Home Secretary. That's a good idea, and no one knows what it is.
We will provide you with more updates when we've got
is it a warehouse?
Practical progress. That's one of the things that's been looked at, but we will provide updates when we've got the practical plans. What I'm not going to do, I'm doing the opposite, basically, of what the previous government did, because they used to just announce a whole load of things and then not actually deliver any of them.
Many police forces up and down the country have complained about the additional costs of the XL bully dog ban because of veterinary and kennel fees. Did you see the figure now that police forces are having to pay across the country?
This has been raised with me actually a few times, and it's certainly something that I'm looking at and working with my colleagues in DEFRA on. But I recognise that's another cost pressure for police forces. So absolutely, I understand that. And as the police minister, I'm obviously keen to make sure that the police get the funding they need for these things that we're asking them to do, because this is obviously quite a new development over the last few years. It's not something that
But did you see the figure earlier this week?
I haven't got it in front of me, but I do know there is a problem with the kennelling fees and the cost of looking after XL bullies. So I do know that.
So you're the policing minister. The National Police Chiefs Council this week talked about the huge burden veterinary and kennel fees are having, the millions of pounds, and you don't know the figure?
Well, I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but I know it's a problem, Nick. I've been raising it with the department, with my colleagues in DEFRA.
But if I was the policing minister and the National Police Chiefs Council this week said how much it's costing them, respectfully, I think I'd be able to hang on to the figure, Minister.
Well, perhaps it's just too early in the morning, Nick, but I am well aware of this issue.
It's £25 million.
Fine, OK, well, it's £25 million.
Okay. With 200 million, which is great, but that's a lot of money. That's possibly police officers, police vehicles that have to go because of these dogs, Minister.
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. I'm agreeing with you on this. I think this is a problem and it needs to be sorted out.
You've mentioned President Trump a couple of occasions. Does he deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, Foreign Secretary?
Well, obviously, that is an independent process that I can't cut across, but nobody should be in any doubt about the significance. Well, I was going to say nobody should be in any doubt about the significance of this moment, and we would not have got here without the US Peace Initiative, without the work that President Trump has done. A lot of countries have been involved in this, a crucial role played by countries like Qatar, but also many other countries from across the world. The UK has been involved alongside other countries in putting forward proposals for this 20-point plan, effectively, for this peace process over recent months.
Let's try this another way. Would you support Donald Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize?
So, look, I think I'm strongly supporing the work that President Trump is doing.
Is a yes or no,
and you'll know it's an independent process. Nick, I'm not going to cut across the process because I think we are actually about to have it making its announcements today. I think we're expecting imminent announcements from the Nobel Peace Prize. I can't. No, but I do strongly support the peace role that President Trump is playing, and I don't think anybody else could be playing that role right now.
You also talk about the nuclear submarines and to develop up to 12. What does up to mean? That could mean one.
Well, these are These are long-term decisions, first of all.
How many is it, Secretary of State? I could lose up to £30 of weight, but I might lose 6 ounces. This is the reality. So what does up to mean?
Well, currently we have 7 attack submarines in our attack submarine fleet. We're looking at the new generation of attack subs. What we're doing now is making the investment in this Parliament to allow us to have 2 production lines, to double the ability to produce, so we can produce submarines every 18 months in the future.
And how many will that be, Secretary of State?
That will allow us to grow the number of attack submarines and meet our NATO commitments in the future.
How much does each AUKUS sub cost?
At the moment, we're designing and looking at how the components put together. You say yourself, it's 2030s into the 2040s before the first of those submarines.
I know, but you must have an idea. So we don't know how many, and we don't know the individual cost. Can I buy a car from you?
No, look, to be quite frank with you, we can't tell the precise cost of what those subs
you must have
will
a
be.
working estimate.
We're doing that now, but most importantly...
So you've commissioned submarines and you don't know the cost?
Now, so that we can build them in the future. We're creating now, with the investment we're making in this Parliament, options for the future, and we're guaranteeing the security of future generations in this country and in NATO because of the investments this as a government is wanting to make.
But Secretary, you don't have a working estimate for the cost of a submarine. You don't have a working estimate.
At a level that we haven't seen since the Cold War.
All right. We learned today that Professor Alexis Jay, who chaired the National Inquiry, wants the full report, the implementations of the report to be fully implemented, recommendations to be fully implemented from her report of 2022. Can you assure my listeners that will happen?
Yes, we wanted that report to happen, and we supported those recommendations, and are disappointed that obviously the previous government didn't implement any of that work. We must make sure that those recommendations are implemented.
But when will that happen then?
I'm afraid I can't give you a date on that. We're working at pace across government, bringing all government departments together to implement those reports. It didn't get done under the last government. It's one of the many things that are broken and that we need to fix and get on with. But we've got excellent leadership in both Keir Starmer, who has led work on making sure these evil perpetrators are brought to justice, and Jess Phillips, who has led her work professionally around supporting victims in particular against all sorts of abuse.
Home Office is refusing to publish figures for the number of grooming gang members who have been deported. Why the refusal?
I don't know the details of that, I'm afraid.
But isn't that something that should be in the public domain?
I mean, I think that we need to make sure that all these evil perpetrators are dealt with and that all the lessons are learnt. We know from Alexis Jay's report that over 3 million people, adults, have been living with this abuse for decades.
Inquiries into Southport, inquiries into Nottingham. Can you confirm there will be an inquiry into the murder of Sir David Amess?
So in the awful murder of Sir David Amess, there was also, the perpetrator had also been referred to Prevent previously. That Prevent Learning Review wasn't released under the previous government. We have said that will be released, and that's why I've been talking to David's family, to Katie and her mother, about that, and we would expect to release that next week.
But what of an inquiry?
I've also asked David Anderson, who is our new independent Prevent Commissioner, to review that entire case and to look specifically at David Amess's case and the Prevent referrals there as well.
Does that constitute an inquiry?
So it will be looking at the Prevent aspects of that case. There's also...
So is that an inquiry, Secretary?
There's with the David Amess case, there's a couple of other cases as well that are also have some similar themes that we are looking at, all of those, to look at what is the best way
Can I call it an inquiry?
For all of the questions to be answered.
Okay.
What you would understand,
Why would you say the word inquiry?
Well, because there are different kinds of inquiries, aren't there? And I don't.
No,
there are. Yeah.
Well, why can't there be an inquiry? Why can't we call whatever's being done into that tragic event an inquiry?
Because I'm looking at that at the moment. I'm looking at the David Amess case, but also there are 2 or 3 other cases which raise some similar issues, and we need to look at the way those questions need to be answered. Well, we don't fully know the story of the Southport killer, and that's why we need a public inquiry.
Why? You're the Home Secretary. You don't know all the events concerning Radicalana. Why not?
No, well, so this is a good issue. But I do know what happened in terms of the Prevent. I've done a detailed Prevent learning review, but what I don't yet know is the interaction between mental health services, social services, early years help, the schools, all of those different organisations. We know that between them, those organisations failed to recognise how dangerous that man was.
This was 8 months ago, Home Secretary.
Which is why we need but we've had a police investigation.
Why do we need a public inquiry to find out who didn't talk to who?
Well, as you will understand, Nick, you have to have the police investigation. The most important thing was to get the criminal trial through and to get justice and to get the killer prosecuted and through that trial, rightly so. What we now need is the public inquiry, because we need all of those organisations to be able to be honest about what happened and, the way in which they failed.
When was the last time your party was in touch with the electorate?
Well, I would say we are now. Literally, it's not translated.
Prior to now, Chairman, Co-Chair.
Well, look, I think I know what you're getting at, but look, I know what the challenging
why don't you answer the question? When was the Conservative Party last in touch, when they were in power, with the electorate?
Well, I think we're in touch with the British public.
So
because
you agree.
Many of our
your party hasn't been in touch with. I've given you 4 chances, Mr. Huddleston. Your party hasn't been in touch with the electorate for years. Can remember, and it's just been shown last night and through the course of today.
Nick,
you are as in touch with the party as I am with being a lead dancer for the Royal Ballet.
Lick, I can either answer the question or I can listen to you making comments.
Nigel.
Which way do you want to go?
Go ahead, Nigel.
The really important thing is we understand one of the reasons why we lost the last election is precisely because the British public did not see us implementing sound conservative values, policies and principles. That is low taxation, small government, living within your means, democracy, freedom, patriotism, these kind of values and principles that we know not only do we hold dear as the Conservative Party, but the British public did. Now, partly through circumstances, the pandemic, for example, it's difficult to be the party of low taxation when you spent £400 billion on the pandemic, but also partly because we didn't focus on the things we said we would do to the degree that we should have done. Immigration, let's be very clear and honest, being one of them. We let the British public down, but we paid the price for that at the last election.
We are learning, well, certainly the journalists were kept completely in the dark, which is always a positive thing, but there are reports some ministers and civil servants didn't find out until a few days ago. When were you informed? Good morning.
Well, look, this is part of us looking at what really needs to happen in order to make the NHS fit for the future. We, and the Secretary of State yesterday, we didn't intend in coming into office to make this change, but our experience over the past few months of having joint teams coming into meetings, the same finance team and strategy teams and communication teams, one from the Department of Health, one from NHS England. We brought them together to work better together where they were working totally separately, which I think is a surprise to the general public. They wouldn't expect that. So over recent months, we've really seen that isn't working. We know that we need to go further and faster to make the changes we need to happen. So, making this change, which is kind of a bit of a bureaucratic change. I know most people certainly wouldn't think that the NHS England was independent of government. They expected us to be running it. So bringing that in-house, making it more democratic and driving change at the front end is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, Minister, that is an answer to a question. It's not the answer to the question. I asked you, when were you informed?
Well, we've been discussing this over the past few weeks. Obviously, there have a number of changes. Decisions move quickly. The Prime Minister announced it directly yesterday, brought forward into Parliament. So over the last week or so that we have been discussing and deciding that this is the way to go.
Obviously, I'm not spelling this question out correctly. When were you informed?
Well, I can't remember the exact date, to be honest. Things is moving so quickly that the discussions about this have been happening in the last week or so.
You can't remember the day you were told that the £192 billion Quango NHS England was to be scrapped. You can't remember that day?
The
I find that
discussions
extraordinary.
on
This happens
the
on a regular basis, does it?
No.
So you must remember the day.
No, I don't remember exactly what date that I knew this was going to be announced.
As regards President Trump's assertion that there is an invasion happening to Europe, would you use that word?
I think we've got a huge problem with immigration in this country. The numbers are way too high. That deterrent needs putting in place. People cannot be allowed to break into this country, arrive illegally, and be allowed to stay, claiming the benefits and claiming all of the other costs to the British taxpayer. Those scenes that we're seeing at hotels are entirely unacceptable. The fact the number has started to go up since Labour came into power is devastating for this country and devastating.
But is it an invasion?
Well,
would you use that word?
I'd say there are devastating numbers of people.
So you wouldn't use the word invasion, just to clarify.
It's uncontrolled and it's devastating. It has serious consequences and costs.
All right. I don't think we're going to get the word invasion, but I'm grateful to you, Matt Vickers. Thank you. Do you think we live in an island of strangers? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. I think our country has benefited over very many years through generations from people coming to the UK, being part of our communities and working in our public services. But I also think that the level of migration needs to be controlled and managed.
So we are living in partial island of strangers then?
Well, I think we're a country that I think have a really strong country.
Are we or are we not an island of strangers, do you think?
No, I think we're a country where everybody, I think, wants to see a strong country where we train people in the UK, but also to see net migration come down. I think that makes sense.
Was there involvement from Lord Mandelson in this deal? Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Nick. As you know, Lord Mandelson was removed from his position after the PM saw the new evidence that he did last week. But the deal today, the investment we're announcing today, £150 billion, Nick. This is a seriously big package of investment. This is a real vote of confidence in our economy, and it's a fantastic deal to announce, and it's a fantastic set of investments right across the country.
I'm delighted. I totally agree, sir. The question was he involved, yes or no?
Well, look, as you said, he was removed from the position last week, and I don't know any further details beyond that.
You don't know whether our man in Washington was involved in helping broker this deal?
Well, look, the deal which is being announced today, the deal which has been signed this week, the Prime Minister is signing the tech partnership. We're announcing all this investment. There's a deal around nuclear energy. There's a huge number of aspects to the deal which is being announced today in the partnership between the US and the UK. But as I said, the issue with Lord Mandelson was dealt with last week.
No, I appreciate that. I'm not harking back. Are you suggesting he wasn't involved in this then?
No, I'm saying I don't know. I haven't been in the rooms as these deals have been constructed.
Can you say, read my lips, no tax rises in the autumn?
Well, what I did yesterday was allocate the money from last year's budget. But this is important because people are saying that we spent this money yesterday. This is money that I set aside last autumn in the budget. And, you know, and I'm not going to shy away from it, I did increase taxes in the budget last autumn. But that is what paid for the spending I set out yesterday. I'm not going to be able to write another 4 years worth of budget.
So you can't say, read my lips, no tax rises this autumn?
Well, I think it would be very risky for a Chancellor to try and write future budgets in a world as uncertain.
I'm only asking for a few months' time, Chancellor.
Yes, but look, the world is very uncertain at the moment. But what I can tell you and your listeners, what I can say to your listeners is I won't have to repeat a budget like the one that I did last year.
You and your colleagues said prior to the election that you wouldn't raise taxes on working people, but council tax, I read, is now to go up by 5%. Working people pay council tax. That's a broken promise, Chancellor, isn't it?
Well, that's a cap on council tax, and no one's saying that councils have to increase it. But let me also add this.
I sense they will. I've always known you as a plain-speaking politician. Can you rule out the idea that there will be a VAT rise in November's budget, Chancellor?
Well, you'll know we made those commitments in our manifesto, and those manifesto commitments stand. And let me explain why those manifesto commitments stand.
So something stands until it falls, as my colleague says. So it stands until it falls in reality. You can't. Can you rule it up? Can you rule it out?
Well, let me just tell you why we made those commitments and why they're so important to me, Nick. We made those commitments because in the last Parliament, it was the worst Parliament on record for living standards, and working people bore the brunt of that economic mismanagement. And so we made those commitments not to increase the key taxes that working people pay.
Yes.
All right.
No, absolutely.
So, but
and
just can you rule out a VAT?
And there is more to, and there is more to do.
Okay, indeed.
Nick.
Can you rule out a VAT rise, Chancellor?
Well, I've already said, Nick, that we stand by those commitments.
Lucy Powell, the Deputy Leader, has warned the Prime Minister and the Chancellor breaching the party manifesto to pledge on taxes would damage trust in politics. Is she correct?
Well, we're delivering our manifesto. The reason you're seeing 5 million additional NHS appointments is because we committed to get waiting lists down, and that's what we're doing. The reason you saw the increase in the national minimum wage is because we promised to give Britain a pay rise, and that's what we're doing. So we're delivering the manifesto.
But hold on, you're a savvy bloke. We saw the Chancellor earlier this week. I would suggest paving the way for what will be some kind of tax increases, and you have your Deputy Leader saying, don't break the pledges given the manifesto, because, I say again, you will damage trust in politics. Is she right if those raises were to go ahead?
Well, we can all speculate about what might be in the budget, but I don't know any more than anyone else, and we'll find out in due course. But we are going to make the changes in this country that the public voted for. I'm
honestly not asking you to speculate what's in the budget. I'm saying that if those raises were to go ahead, when your colleague Lucy Powell says it would damage trust in politics, is she right?
Yeah, well, we're not damaging trust in politics. We're getting on and delivering the manifesto. That's important. But Rachel, the Chancellor, gave a speech a couple of days ago in which she said, we're not going back to austerity. We will invest.
One other matter that's made front page news is the possibility of a wealth tax as put forward by Labour grandee Lord Kinnock with his urgings towards the Chancellor. Is that something you would support?
I mean, obviously tax is a matter for the Chancellor and obviously will be assessed in the round at the autumn budget. I mean, look at some of the actions we've already taken that demonstrate Labour values on the jet tax, on the profits for energy companies, a range of other things. We think that people with the broader shoulders should pay more. But
so you would support a wealth tax?
Well, our relentless focus is on growing the economy, and obviously there are cost implications for all decisions that Parliament makes, but look at it in the round, as you can expect to see in the autumn later this year.
OK. Can you clarify once and for all, is the Labour government considering a wealth tax, yes or no?
So some of the decisions that we've taken in the last year, we have asked those with the broadest shoulders to carry the greatest burden.
So
if you think about the changes we made to non-dom tax, we've asked those who send their children to private school to pay a bit more because we have taken away the tax breaks that they used to get when they sent their children to private school. I think fairness needs to be the guiding principle in the way we approach decisions around taxation. But we also need to do that in a way which balances the contribution that entrepreneurs can make to growing the economy.
How embarrassing is this for your government?
Any release in error is totally unacceptable, Nick.
Now, how embarrassing is it?
Well, as I've said, it's totally unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and I share the anger and fury.
All right, let's try this a different way. It is very embarrassing, isn't it?
Look, it's unacceptable. It's more than embarrassing, Nick. I think that's actually undermining the issue at hand here, because any error and any prisoner released in error is unacceptable, and that is why we're getting to the bottom of this.
One in, one out, one complete disaster, isn't it?
Well, no, I actually think this speaks to how the new system is working, because this person did come back. He was picked up, immediately by biometric data, and he has been removed, and he will keep being removed, and it will be a waste of his money if he attempts to return back to the UK.
Where are we currently with one in, one out? What are the numbers there, Minister?
So the numbers are, we're getting on top of this, Nick. I don't have the figures to hand precisely, but I know that the Home Office are working at pace to ensure that we get to grips with this.
What would you think, allowing that this began in August, what would you think would be an acceptable number currently for those who've been removed from the United Kingdom? What would you hope the figure would be at?
Well, I can tell you that it's more that have been removed than under the previous Tory government, Nick. That is a fact.
OK. But what would you hope the number would be at, Minister?
As many as possible, Nick. I don't have direct figures, but what I can tell you is that I want as many as possible deported. And what I will tell you, Nick, is that on foreign national offenders, we are now going to be deporting them on sentencing, because we don't want them in our country. Being in our country is a privilege, not a right. And if you don't abide by our rules and our laws, then you will be deported on sentencing. That's what we're cracking down on. We are making sure that we have a criminal justice system and a police system that is fit for purpose and that the British public can be proud of.
94 is the number. Do you think that's making progress, Minister?
I think it's a step in the right direction. It's obviously not enough. Nick, we need more, and we will be seeking to do more.
Can I tell you how I see it? You're driving a fairly rich Labour Party donor out of the country.
As I said, I've read that piece, and it says that he's considering what to do, and he'll make a decision in due course. As I say, obviously we hope.
Will you regret if he goes?
We'll reconsider. It's up to him to make that decision.
Will you
Nick,
regret if he goes?
It's up to him to make that decision.
I appreciate that. That wasn't the question, was it? I said, will you regret? Because obviously, I appreciate he enjoys relief on his foreign income. That means I've no idea how much he pays, but it's a considerable amount of money. We won't have that anymore, will we? So do you regret his decision if he goes?
Well, look, this is not about one individual. This is about what the policy raises for the public finances and getting that balance right between having a fair policy and one that supports the public services and make sure that we've got public finances back on a firm footing.
And more broadly on this, you don't think it's a negative look that so many millionaires and indeed billionaires are leaving this country? 500,000 by 2028 under your government's regime.
Well, no, look, we set out a policy which is to introduce a new residence-based system for people from overseas who want to come to the UK.
Do you not think it's a negative look, Mr. Murray?
Well, I don't recognise those figures that you're talking about. What we want to make sure that we are supporting people from overseas who want to come to the UK and invest and help grow our economy, whilst also making sure that everyone pays their fair share of taxes.
We inherited an economic mess and we've got to get on top of it.
Yes, you did inherit. That's undoubtedly true. There was an inheritance. But one thing that's only gone on your watch is the extraordinary number of millionaires and billionaires, wealth creators who have left the country, an unprecedented level in the last 6 months. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, I think that we are doing our best to ensure that we have business investment higher. PwC last week...
That is an answer, but it's not the answer, is it, Minister? I asked you, why do you suppose millionaires and billionaires...
It is related. I mean, PwC did a survey of global CEOs, and they bring wealth and jobs to our country, and they found that the UK was the second most attractive place in the world to invest after the US. This is the best ranking for 26 years. So I'm just saying to you that there are other indicators about economic growth and about the economic conditions that we are in.
Do you think this exodus of wealth creators is behind why Rachel Reeves tried to undo some of her policies regarding non-doms?
Well, we have clarified the rules around nom-doms. As she explained at the weekend, we have brought into place a residential requirement about bringing wealth into the country so that when nom-doms bring wealth into the country, they don't face punitive tax rates. But we stand by our position that if you make the UK your home, you should pay tax here.
Mr. Holden, the party's gone from 14 years in power to now being in fourth place and hardly mentioned at the Prime Minister's conference. How have you managed that? That's quite an achievement.
Well, I think what the Prime Minister's clearly seeing is that from those announcements recently from Nigel Farage that is really clearly targeting what would be very traditional Labour voters with those sort of massive increases in benefits policies. I mean, the two-child benefit cap, I don't know if people really know what it means. It's not about the child benefit that you get on having individual children. What it's about is if you're on universal credit, it basically means that you can have all of that support, and it's wraparound support, so it's everything from a housing benefit all the way through. It's a huge amount, and there are exemptions for it. For example, if you have a multiple birth, or if you're
not answering the question, Mr. Holden. No, can I ask you to answer? I've been polite. I've been polite enough now. Your party has been around for nearly 200 years. You've been in power for 14 years. Reform, by comparison, has been around for about half an hour. They are referred to constantly now by the Prime Minister. They are clearly the opposition. They are the opposition. So why have you, not you, Percy, why has the party failed? I wonder if we could address that, Mr. Holden.
Look, at the moment, it's quite clear that Reform and Labour are chasing the same voters. That's why the Prime Minister's talking about them.
At least they're getting voters.
Well, they've decided to park their. Nigel Farage has decided to go after the benefits stuff with massive unfunded spending commitments, and they're clearly now fighting after the same voters. It's quite clear that neither of them have any credibility on these issues.
Which way did you vote 6 years ago?
I voted against.
So you're one of the NIMBYs the Prime Minister's talking about.
Well, I think the important thing is...
You've just lectured the nation, not you personally. The Labour Party's just lectured the nation. Stop being NIMBYs, stop being green zealots. We've got to build, baby, build. You had an opportunity to support the expansion of Heathrow 6 years ago, and you voted against it. Who are you to lecture the nation, Mr. Pennycook?
Well, but I think the important point here, Nick, is...
The important point is you're saying one thing and doing another, Minister.
No, because we can set straw men up. No one's saying that people can't object to individual applications. Even under the changes we're announcing today, people will be able to challenge the lawfulness of cases. I think in general terms, because we are talking about a speculative, hypothetical application that hasn't been submitted. Look, the government do want to ensure that the long-term future of the aviation industry in this country is secured.
How relaxed or otherwise are you then about the so-called super embassy being built in London, the biggest embassy anywhere in the whole of Europe? Should that proceed, given the nature of our negotiations over this steel plant?
Well, look, the decision around that
but what
will
do you
essentially
feel?
be a planning
Do you have
decision.
nervousness about it?
Well, it's not for me to make a planning decision in relation to that. Planning is a quasi-judicial function. Planning is something which other ministers
But I ask you how you
involved
feel, a
with.
senior politician, do you have nervousness about the Chinese in that instance? It is reported that, not reported, Amnesty International say embassies are used as surveillance hubs, which is not beyond the wit of man. Does that give you any degree of nervousness?
I'm not nervous about engaging with China. I think we need to engage with China fully, but in an open-eyed and clear-headed way.
So we let them have this massive embassy in London?
Well, no, you're trying to draw me on something that I've explained.
Well,
why
whether
I
you've
can't
got the concerns of
comment on
Amnesty
whether the
International
embassy is going to be built or not. But what I am clear about is that we should engage with China, but we should do it with open eyes.
Talking about money in people's pockets, would you be in favour of an idea being mooted, I understand, by the government to put certain BBC programmes behind a paywall, possibly introduce advertising, while their services would remain free if you were in receipt of benefits? Would you support that?
Well, it's a consultation that's open.
Yes, I know that, sir. But would you support it?
Well, it's a consultation for people to contribute to. I haven't looked.
Do you support it?
I don't have a view right now. I haven't looked.
You
at the
don't have a view.
So what I would say is these are
it's the front page of three of this morning's national newspapers, and you don't have a view.
It's a consultation. It's for the public
would you support
to
it,
suggest
Minister?
their views. I'd like to hear what the public have to say on it. But what I would say is, what's really important is, despite the fact you were playing Fawlty Towers earlier on, which I didn't realise I've actually never watched, I didn't know the theme song. It's before my time.
My
the
goodness,
BBC's
you have such a rich Christmas ahead of you. I promise you, Minister.
But, there's some great products being produced, programmes being produced over the decades by the BBC. It has to live within its means, and this consultation is about how they fund it into the future.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 60 60 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.